Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal Tactical Breakdown Show. Looking at usually players that have been linked to Arsenal and breaking them down with the help of some experts. But today's Tactical Breakdown is a bit different. We've done these types of shows before where we look at a number of potential targets that have been linked to the club. And this show goes even further than that because we are, after, of course, the chaos with Mihajlo Mudryk, going to be looking at 30. That's right, 30 potential other forwards that Arsenal could still sign between now and the end of the window. These are targets that have been linked. Some haven't been linked. Some are realistic. Some are much less realistic. It's just an overall list to give you an idea of what's out there and who could potentially come in. We also are going to rate them. And for those that have tuned in for some of our rating episodes, we get very engaged in the chat box. And you guys often leave your scores out of 10. I've given my own score for each of the players that we're going to be looking at as well. So make sure as you're seeing them pop up on the screen that you're throwing your ratings into the chat box. I would like to take a second to say hello to a very special guest. Hello, Todd Bowley. I said Ted Bowley then. I might as well call him Ted. Hello, Todd Bowley. I know you're watching, son. I know this is the only way in which you can get hold of any chip players for Chelsea by watching who Arsenal are looking at. So just like to say a little hello there, mate, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to Todd because you're going to need to learn a little bit more about the game, I'm sure. Let's crack on with today's show, though. Of course, you can get involved with our latest sponsor. Four Prizes have done a day 24-hour prize. Now, if you're watching this 2 hours or so after this show is finished, this prize for the show will not be in circulation. There's only about 25 or so tickets left. You can win a signed Aaron Ramsdale shirt, a goalkeeping shirt, signed and framed. Link is down below. There's only, as I say, about 25 tickets left. So if you want to get involved in the latest competition, the link for that is down below. Okay, let's jump into the first of many, 30 we've got to go through, and we start with Leander Trossard. Brighton, winger, left wing, right wing, cam, centre forward, very versatile, 28 years of age. Estimated price tag around £25 million. 16 appearances this season for Brighton, 7 goals, 3 assists, and he's had 10 different injuries throughout his career so far, according to Transfermarkt. I've given this personally a rating of 7.5 out of 10. The price is a little too high based upon the player that I think that he is. And his age bracket doesn't really fit in with what Arsenal are currently looking at. So for me, I've gone for a 7.5. You're also going to notice that as we are going through 30 of these players, these are going to be quite quick. So as soon as that player pops up on the screen, I want to see your ratings dropping in the chat box. Gooner Gang's going for a 6.5. Nav going for a 7 in the chat. Merchant says 6. FTL Gooner Craze gone for 5.5. Of course, this is entirely up to your opinions on this, and obviously where you base your ratings around will be different. I think the lowest I have on this list is a 6, and I think that's pretty low. So you won't see me going through 5 and belows as potential options. Option number 2 is Wilfred Zaha of Crystal Palace. Can play left wing, right wing, centre forward, 30 years of age. Estimated price tag around £25 million. He only has 6 months left on his deal, so Palace are expected to accept a cut price deal for the Ivorian international. He has suffered 13 injuries throughout his long career, not too much of a concern. And I've given this a rating of 8 out of 10. Yes, you may be surprised by that. My mind has changed a little bit on Wilfred Zaha in the recent, 24 hours because of the Mudryk situation. On an 18-month contract with the option to extend by an additional year, I don't think this would be a bad option for Arsenal at all to try and bring in to give them that little bit of a boost for this season in particular. And of course, we can maintain control of his contract by doing it for 18 months and giving him an extra year as an option if things go well. His wages are around 120,000 per week, and that, of course, I think would be able to be brought down. I think he'd take a cut to join Arsenal. I might be wrong, but he's wanted to move for so long, I could definitely see it happening. Tom says 10 out of 10 for Zaha. Odin's Raven says 8. Nimish says 9. Julian says 8. James D says 8. Avsar says 8.5 will do a good job. Moving on to number 3, Marcus Turan, Borussia Munchen Gladbach. Well, I've just realised how quickly I'm talking. This is going to be a hell of a challenge getting through 30 of these in an hour. This is going to be good. Estimated price tag around £15 million, 25 years of age, can play across the front 3, 15 appearances, 10 goals, 3 assists, 11 injuries. He did suffer quite a serious injury recently as well, but has returned and done very well. I've given this a 7 out of 10 in terms of for Marcus Turan. If I consider Zaha, for instance, an 8, I'd prefer Zaha to Marcus Turan on that contract. I think there are better players out there than Turan, and he would fill a spot in the squad, of course, that would then be filled, we would expect, for the long term. He's a good player, can score. Players from the Bundesliga, there's a variation in how they respond when moving to the Premier League. You can have an Aubameyang, you can have a Son, or you can have the opposite of that, which we have seen a number of times. Kai Havertz, for instance, has not done particularly well since moving, taking him a long time to adjust. So Marcus Thuram, I'm giving us 7 out of 10. Bengal Boy says 7. 3-pointer says 9. ML Reaction going for an 8. Dwight says 8.9 on this one. Very specific. I've gone for 0.5s. I've allowed myself 0.5s, but nothing other than that. Hamster's going for a 6, though, with Marcus Thuram. Zach says 4. Not convinced he's a winger when he has played as a 9 before. Now, next one. Arnaut Danjuma from Villarreal, the former Bournemouth player, 25 years of age. Has done very well since moving out to Spain. Not played too much this season because he had a bit of an injury. So he's had 10 appearances so far, just the 2 goals. 10 injuries so far. Estimated price tag around £30 million. Dutch international, of course, as well. Seeing reactions in the chat box immediately. 7 from Harun. Marcus says 4. 6 for Danjuma from Same. We've got hashtag free Danjuma from Mohammed. 6 from Mohammed. A free Danjuma from Yomi, who must clearly be a fan. 5 from Steve. 5.5 from James. And a Yusalngel has gone for 5 as well. Moving on to the next one. Ferran Torres, Barcelona forward, left wing, centre forward, right wing, very versatile, can play across the front three, formerly of Manchester City, has worked with Mikel Arteta as well. £50 million estimated price tag, could be slightly less. 15 appearances Barcelona so far, 2 goals, 0 assists, 4 injuries, very good injury record actually, hasn't suffered too many problems whatsoever. I've given him an 8 out of 10, which for some might be quite high. I rate the guy, I like him a lot. He's worked with Mikel Arteta, and Arteta is, as far as I'm aware, a big admirer of the player. I think he fits in with that Premier League experience. I think he fits in with the style of player that we've added to our forward line. Still 22, so still incredibly young. Price tag a little bit of a concern, but he doesn't really want to leave Barcelona. So I think that is going to make it a very difficult deal for us to do if we are to try and get him during this window. Robert says an 8 can cover a lot of the gaps in the squad. Zahido says just 6.5 for Torres. Akin says 7, worked with Arteta, and he's versatile. Mohammed, not a fan. He's going for a 5 out of 10 with this one. Zeus says 8 out of 10. Arteta knows him. Versatile, point to prove. NVR is going for a 6, though. It's claiming that he can't finish. Sam, though, says an 8. I like this guy, and he's worked with Mikel, is a bonus. Let's move on to the next one. Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. Left winger, centre forward, right winger. Arguably one of the hottest properties on the market right now. Price tag estimated to be as high as it could be. 100 million euros, 80 million pounds, 15 appearances, 9 goals, 7 assists. Powerful player, 21 years of age. However, does have a problem with injuries. 7 injuries already at the age of 21 is quite high. I've given him a 9.5 out of 10. This would be an absolute dream scenario for Arsenal, but certainly a very, very unrealistic one. I think it is near impossible to get hold of Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. However, maybe Arsenal could go in with that 100 million that they didn't have for Mudryk, for a player that's already proving it at the elite level with Napoli in Serie A and in the Champions League. Harj going for a 10 out of 10. This guy is amazing. Hugh says 10 out of 10, but not happening. Steve says 9, but no chance of getting him now. Adam says 100 out of 10. I think he might like him, does Adam. And Jamie going for a 9.5. Love him. Colin going for 100% on this one. And Tom's going for a 10, but again, not happening. Yes, I do tend to agree with you guys in the chat box. If you're listening to this, by the way, on catch up, do leave the names of all the players down below and your ratings for each one as well. Tom says, I'd give Craig in Fort Lauderdale a 9 for his big head. Craig, of course, one of our long-time listeners, but Kvaratskhelia, he gives an 11 out of 10. I think I may have missed a super chat from Craig earlier on the show, which I now feel absolutely awful about. Here it is. FTL Craig, thank you so much. TC, before you get started, can we see the table? I've already got started, Craig, because I'm an idiot and I missed your super chat. But thank you for the donation. And I can tell you where we are. We're first. So there you go. Let's move on to the next one. Federico Chiesa, Juventus, a right winger, left winger, centre forward, 25 years of age, estimated price tag around 60 million pounds, 5 appearances, no goals, 2 assists because he's been out with an injury for most of this season and has suffered quite a few injuries throughout his time in Italy, 13 so far. However, he is a very, very talented player. And if he is able to get back to his best, Chiesa can be a very dangerous player indeed. Won already the European Championships, of course, with Italy and has won trophies, of course, as well with Juventus. I've given this a rating of 9 out of 10. If you can get him, if you can keep him fit, he is a very, very good player indeed. Guna Gang says 9 baller, but you won't leave the old lady. Of course, with the situation at Juventus, this does open up a potential door for Chiesa and a number of other players to leave as well. Cam says Chiesa's a 9. His dad was a deadly striker as well. Rancy says Chiesa an 8.5. Bakary Lasagna says 9. Another one that won't happen, though. Akamura says 9. Max Days Black says 6. Not a fan, clearly, of Chiesa. Akin says 6. High possession volume player where we are a team based and he's a bit injury prone. You can see the variation in kind of feelings around players. It's kind of incredible, actually. Let's move on to the next one. Moussa Diaby, France international, Bayer Leverkusen winger, left wing, right wing, 23 years of age, 50 million pound estimated price tag, 15 appearances, 6 goals, 3 assists this season, 0 injuries. 9 out of 10 rating from myself. Again, very, very good. Can play either side very comfortably. Young, good price range, I think, as well for a player of his level. Good returns. Last season, he came away with, I think, over 30 goal contributions across all competitions. Very exciting player indeed. Very versatile too. The Don says 9. Naresh says, I've just missed that comment because it scrolled down for me. Lee Clark says a 10 out of 10 for Moussa Diaby. Chris Summers says he's a 10 because he's rapid. Cam's going for an 8.5. Very adaptable. Kia, I think I saw that. I just missed it. 8.5. Odin's Raven says 9. And Clock Orange says 8. Leverkusen are asking, though, for 70. So, as I said, this is an estimated price tag, so they may indeed vary from what we are seeing in different outlets. Now, a big one for a lot of people. Raphaelliao AC Milan, Portuguese international, can play left, can play through the middle, 23 years of age, 80 million pound estimated price tag, 17 appearances, 8 goals, 6 assists. Is in negotiations with AC Milan over a brand new deal, yet to agree that. That price tag may be quite inflated based upon his contract length, but if he is to renew, of course, it would be even higher than that. 5 injuries in his career so far. I've given this joint highest rating out of all of those on this list with 9.5 out of 10. Raphaelliao would be a brilliant signing for Arsenal to make if they can get him. Really would compete with Martinelli. But again, very tricky to see this one happening. I can see a lot of positivity in the chat box with these. MI Tech going for a 10, but probably the most impossible of all. I disagree with that. I think Kvaratskhelia is probably the most impossible of them all. I think Leao's contract situation makes him a bit more possible. Vishal goes for a 12 out of 10. Robert goes for 11 out of 10. Merchant Banker says 100 out of 10. I can see a lot of positivity on Raphael Leao. As I said, this list is full of both realistic and unrealistic players, but ones that maybe, who knows, could surprise us in the future. Let's go for the next one. Jeremy Pino, Villarreal, Spanish international, left wing, centre forward, can also play on the right, to be fair as well. 20 years of age, estimated price tag at around £40 million. 16 appearances this season, 2 goals, no assists, 3 injuries. I've given him a rating of 7 out of 10. He is an exciting young player. As I say, Spanish international, really highly rated. At 20, has done some really good things at the top level. For what he's produced already at that age is very impressive indeed. Should not be underrated. I've gone for a 7. Chris says 66 because he's not worth £40 million. Mel says 2 out of 10. I guess allowing Jeremy Pino to follow Kvaratskhelia, Moussa Diaby and Raphael Leao may have been a bit of a mistake because I think going from those to Pino may affect people's viewpoint on their ratings. ML Reaction says 8 for me. Pino says 6, not for us. Jamie says 5.5, wrong position. Goal return not good enough, says Stephen. Remember, he's only 20 years of age, worth remembering. Odin's Raven says he's an 8 because of his potential. Social Join says not enough raw speed. I will happily send you a video to prove you're wrong. There's a lot of misconceptions around how quick Jeremy Pino is. He's a quick player, believe me. Sam says 9, good, but can go missing in some games. SJ Chan says Diaby's an 8, though, compared to him. And Nav going for a 6 out of 10 for Pino. Moving on to the next one. Irving Lozano, Napoli, Mexican international, can play right wing, left wing, can play through the middle. Played, of course, at last year's World Cup. 27 years of age. So, of course, he's another Napoli player, not as highly regarded at the moment as what Kvaratskhelia is. Estimated price tag around £30 million, 17 appearances, 3 goals, 3 assists at this stage, 12 injuries in his career. I've given this one a 6.5 out of 10. I just don't think the output and the age bracket are what Arsenal are ultimately looking for at the moment. I don't think I'd like to see us go in for this one. If we'd have gone in like 3 or 4 years ago, if we'd have got him from PSV before he moved, I would have been interested in seeing how he would have got on for Arsenal. But I think the boat's probably gone on this one. Elliot says Lozano 6, okay, I guess. Sam says no, too old. 4, sorry, Tom, you have to apologise. This is your opinion, my friend. Chris says 3, not the right type of player. John is going for a 1. Wow, not a fan of Lozano at all. Kay Lopez says that he fits perfectly, though, on our bench, and I'd give him a 7. Jamie says 7 if he's happy to sit on the bench. Waxy says 7.5 as a real-life Danny Rojas. I now, having watched Ted Lasso, now understand the references. You'll be very happy to know. And I can't believe I didn't watch that series sooner. It's brilliant. Karo Mitoma, the Japanese international Brighton winger, plays on the left wing exclusively, so not particularly versatile as far as we know. 25 years of age, price tag estimated. It's difficult to estimate the price tag, but I've set it at around 40 million. He may end up going for more. He only signed for Brighton a season and a bit ago for £4.5 million. 3 goals, 1 assist in 13 appearances in the Premier League this season. 1 injury so far. I've given him an 8 out of 10, which is high for me. You know, I could even stretch it to an 8.5 maybe. I really like Mitoma. I think he's fantastic. Lee says 7. Marcus says 7. The Don says 9.5. Your Samajor says 9. Clock Orange is going, however, for a 10. Pay them 50 up front and get him now before Manchester United do. Zach, though, says 3. People are getting carried away and hasn't done enough to warrant his price tag. Brady says 9.5 with a fire emoji. Can you say any more than that? If you put in fire emojis next to these. Mohammed's going for a 9. Ishtiak says Mitoma is a priority. 10 out of 10. Overall, seems kind of crazy positive in the direction of Mitoma. Randall Kolo Muani, of course, France international, played for France throughout the World Cup, came on a number of times. Striker, he can play and has played a lot at striker, but also is very good at playing in the wide areas as well. 24 years of age, estimated price tag around £40 million, may go for less than that though. 14 appearances this season, 5 goals, 10 assists. He is averaging more than 1 goal contribution per game. No injuries at all. Rating 8.5 out of 10 for me. I think Kolo Muani is a fantastic player. Gone under the radar for a lot of people. If they haven't watched him, I'd imagine maybe that's why they're rating him a bit lower, because they don't really know much about him. But he does return with the best goal and assist contributions per 90 on this entire list of 30. Very, very impressive indeed. Let's go to Sam. It says, yes, so strong, 9 out of 10. Matty says 9. Balaj says 7, missed that crucial chance. I wouldn't rank him down just because of that. I think it was a great save from Martinez, to be honest, in the final. Lily says 8. MVR says 7. Kevin says 9. Price tag, age, productivity, all are great. Adam says, if under 40 million, we should do it. Samajor says 8.5. Mine is an 8 from Mohammed. And Marcus says Bailey, Keogh, and Tom Cantona 9.9 out of 10. Make sure you go and watch our show last night with Bailey, John, and Albert. It was a really good podcast breaking down the North London derby. Let's go on to our next one. Pepe, not our Pepe. No, not that Pepe. The third Pepe. Still playing at Porto. Very interesting player indeed. Very versatile. 25 years of age. Very versatile, as I say. Left wing, right wing, cam, centre mid. Has even played at right back whilst during his time there. Estimated price tag around £30 million. 16 appearances at Porto in the Portuguese league. I should say that all of these statistics, by the way, their goals and assists, are purely league stats. So the Portuguese league, in the case of this, I've not done Champions League cups and stuff like that, because some cup competitions, some Champions League groups were different. But of course, I've just gone for the league ones. 1 injury so far. 7 out of 10 for me. We have seen links to Pepe. Arsenal have had their links to the player. Our first Pepe didn't necessarily work out. Maybe this one might. Pepe who? Says Elliot, 5. Mahedi, though, going for a 9 with this one. John Dinkelberg going for a 1, very low on Pepe in this one. Blige says 8 for this Pepe, but the name scares me. Indeed. Manush says, I hope Edu is watching this show, getting plenty of opportunity to see what players are indeed out there. Kevin's going for a 6. Cliff de Voogd going for a 5. No more Pepes. I think that actually might be a -5. Wow. Ridiculous. Jay says, are you sure that he can't play in goal too, Tom? I'm pretty sure, but I wouldn't put it past him. Very versatile player indeed. Next one. Michael Elise, Crystal Palace, France Youth International, can play right wing, can play central midfield and attacking midfield as well. 21 years of age. Estimated price tag, £40 million. 17 appearances so far. 1 goal, 4 assists for Patrick Vieira's side this season. 2 injuries, rating 8.0 out of 10 for me. I really like Michael Elise. I think he's done brilliantly since taking the step up from Reading to the Premier League. And at 21 years of age playing in that Crystal Palace side, I think has done really, really well. I think he'd be a great competitor to Bukayo Saka. Very interesting to see how he plays. And I think his versatility would really suit us as well, that we could use him in a number of different positions. I think he's a really, really impressive talent. Went down to 5 with this one, though, says DR. Zahid says 6.5 potential, but body language is poor. Maybe questions about his attitude. Sean says 8.5, good Saka competition. Jamie says 8.5, young and would be hungry back up to Saka. Blue Memez says 8, he's perfect for us. Joseph says 6. Lele's going for an 8. And Dan says, not what we need right now, 6.5. That's interesting because at a right wing, I think actually the right wing is exactly what we need right now. Interesting decisions being made there. Next one, Javi Simmons. Difficult one to get done, this one. Team, I've put PSV/PSG because despite the fact that he moved to PSV on what is a permanent contract and actually does go through until, I think, 2027, PSG have a buyback clause on Javi Simmons. So whatever happens, Arsenal, I think, would have to pay PSG to get this one done. Dutch international, can play right wing, can play left wing, can play through the middle. 19 years of age, 40 million estimated price tag. That's a big estimate. I'm not 100% sure how much he would really go for. I'm estimating there around £40 million. 16 appearances, 9 goals, 4 assists. Very impressive indeed for how young he is. No injuries whatsoever. 8 out of 10 for me. Of course, playing in the Eredivisie, we've seen a number of players move from the Eredivisie and struggle a bit in the Premier League. So it's difficult to see if that would transition. And he's still very young as well. I like him as a talent. I think he's a really exciting young player. And so I've given him an 8 out of 10. Haj says 9, quality player. Cam says 9, I like him. Steve going for a 7.5. Cross Tacker, though, going for 6. NVR's going for 10, but he's more of a Cam. I mean, this season he has played a lot in wide areas. I would say check where he's played so far this season. Brady going for a 8.5 with Javi Simmons. Asar says quality, 9 out of 10, young and quick. Zeus going for an 8 out of 10 on this one. Talented player. Collins going for 7. Mel going for a 7 out of 10. Cooked us when we played away at PSV as well. NSW says, smash the likes. If you haven't already dropped a like on the video, please make sure you do. We're on our way already to our next, what's it called? Milestone. 44,000 subs. If we can get there by the end of the January transfer window, that would be unreal. So please do. If you haven't already subscribed, we do shows 8 a.m. every day covering all the latest Arsenal transfer news. Do not miss out on your chance to become part of the TGT family. Raphinha is the next one. Barcelona, of course, already turned around and said that he doesn't really plan on leaving Barcelona. So it's tricky to see this one happening. But imagining hypothetically if we was to be able to get him, can play right wing, left wing, centre forward, 25 years of age, estimated price tag 80 million. The reason I put it that high is because there's been reports that they would be asking for around 100 million euros. 15 appearances, 2 goals, 2 assists, 5 injuries. I'm actually going to drop this rating down. I put it originally as an 8. But because of that price tag valuation, I'm going to drop it to a 6.5. And that's a big drop. But he's just not worth 100 million euros. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to drop it down because of that price tag. If it was what they paid for, if it was 55 million, I think that would be fair and an 8 out of 10. But 100 million euros, Not a chance. 6.5. Rady says 9.5 if he wants to be here. Vishal says 6.5. Rancy going for an 8.5 out of 10. NSW says Raphaelliao 5. He doesn't want to come to us. Raphaelliao 6. Brilliant, but untouchable at the moment, says Elliot. 9 out of 10 says Use, previously scouted and Premier League proven. Raphaelliao is not the one, though, according to MLU, who says he is a 4 out of 10 on this one. Chief Nkosi says 2. MVR says 6.5. Been very poor since this season and throughout the World Cup as well. So mixed views, quite a lot of negatives on Raphaelliao. Interesting, considering he was our priority move in the summer. Let's continue. Leroy Sane, Bayern Munich, can play left wing, can play right wing. 27 years of age, estimated price tag around £70 million. Only played 13 times this season for Bayern Munich, but scored 5 goals, got 3 assists. 10 injuries, however, including quite a significant one when he was at Manchester City. I've given this a 9 out of 10. I don't see it as necessarily realistic. However, there is part of me that thinks if you were to go to Bayern Munich and say, here's £70 million, we want Leroy Sane, I think that they would be tempted by that. It is a lot of money, but he is a well-established player, certainly gives you immediate impact in a big season for us. Steve Hester, says 8.5. Chicken Kosi says 9. MI Tech says 100 out of 10, but again, not happening. Benny says 10. Patrick, though, says Sane just a 2. That's incredibly low. Zeus says 11 out of 10, must buy. Carl says Leroy is world class. I give him a 9. John Dinkelberg also going low on this one with just a 5. Merchant Banker says 10 out of 10. Love him on a 6-month loan with an option to buy. I doubt Bayern would go with that one. 27, he's ancient, says Jose. Oi, I'm 28, calm yourself. Atkins says 9, injury prone and out of our age profile, though. Zeus says 11 out of 10, must buy. Scrolling down a bit more. We've got Bakker Lasagna says 9.5, class, but he is indeed quite fragile. Moving on. Pedro Neto. I don't know how long we've got, how many more of these options we've got left. Having a quick check. I think we've got about 10 or so to go. Oh, maybe more. I've done a hell of a lot of these. Pedro Neto, Wolves, Portuguese international, 22 years of age, can play left wing, can play right wing, can play up top. Hasn't played too much this season because of injuries. 8 appearances, 50 million estimated price tag. I've gone for 6.5 because his injury record is just not enough for me to convince. I was really convinced by this guy in the summer and thinking if he can stay out of injury, he could be a real asset. But he hasn't been able to do that. And that's been really a big problem for Pedro Neto. So 6.5 out of 10. The injuries are a big question mark. Tom says 6 out of 10 on Neto. Colin, though, really likes this guy. 8 out of 10. Ibrahim says 5 out of 100 injuries. Mohammed says Neto just a 3. Hassap says Neto is talented, but he is always injured. Zach says 1. He's just not it. Cam says 7 out of 10. Not pulling up trees. Marcus says 4. Clock Orange says, Neto can't stay fit, but a good player, but still 2 out of 10. Balaji says 8.5, but Wolves are going to demand a ransom on this one. Chief and Soki says 5 out of 10. John Dinkelberg says 6. DR says 6. Way too many injuries. Adam French says not playing class, so could be less than 35 million. So 7.5 out of 10. Moving on. Marcus Edwards, Sporting Lisbon, right winger, centre forward, can play attacking midfield as well. 24 years of age, tore up Champions League football this season. £30 million estimated price tag, 16 appearances, 5 goals, 5 assists, just the 1 injury so far. 7.5 out of 10 for me. I think he's a really interesting profile. It's interesting to see how, since moving from Spurs Academy to Portugal, of course, previously, I think, with Vitória before moving to Sporting, he's done very, very well. And he's rapid. If you really enjoyed Mykhailo Mudrik's kind of rapid pace, watch as much as you can of this guy because he is insanely quick indeed. Guna Gang says, 2x Spurs, he ain't it. Nav says 5 next. Rich says 1 out of 10. Nimish says 5. Who? Steve Hester says 7. Mark Patrick says Marcus Who? 2 out of 10. It's quite funny considering actually he's one of the highest performing players on this list and people are writing him off. A lot of people are rating him highly just to annoy Spurs. 10 says Hamster, just to spite Spurs at this rate. 11 out of 10, embarrassed Tottenham in the Champions League, says Sean. Jay says 7.5 is spot on, in my opinion. Jokes because he's Spurs product, and that would be orgasmic. Easy R says 7 due to his versatility. DR says 7.5 because of his good price. Sam says 8, very good young talent, but English as well, so maybe expensive. Moving on. Jesper Lindstrom, a player who's actually been linked to Arsenal. Frankfurt player, Danish international, can play on the left, can also play through the middle, has played on the right as well, though I've not included it on this graphic. £40 million estimated price tag, although it could be lower than that. 14 appearances for Frankfurt in the Bundesliga this season, 6 goals, 2 assists so far, 3 injuries throughout his career. I've given a rating of 8 out of 10. Really, really good player. I recommend, if you've not seen much of Jesper Lindstrom, going to watch him. Denmark were incredibly disappointing in the World Cup, and Lindstrom was really the only bright spark in that Danish side. I'm glad that we're linked to him. I'm glad that we're looking at him. Really, very much enjoying what he's doing. Zahid says 9, clean and intense football, but always there's that Bundesliga tax on him. Morgan says 9, would love him. MR Tech says 7, seems solid. Harsh says 8. Merchant Banker's going for an 8 on this one as well. DR says 7, would you swap for a Nuno Tavares? Maybe you would send Nuno the other direction. Zach says 5, good record for a youngster, but again, there are better options. Sam says, I like this guy, a 7, but I think he is a bit slow for the Prem. I find it odd. I mean, it's people that said the Yerim Pino was slow when he's not, and now people are saying Jesper Lindstrom is slow when he's not slow at all. Maybe it's a lack of knowledge. I don't know. Maybe it's people haven't seen enough of the player, but I think he's a really talented player indeed. Noni Maduike, linked at the moment to Chelsea, so he could be on the move this window. Plays for PSV, right wing, centre forward, age 20. Estimated price tag said to be around £30 million. 5 appearances so far for PSV this season. Not played all that much because I think he's been injured. And of course, they've had Gakpo and Javi Simmons playing a lot of the first team football this year. Has suffered a fair few injuries, however. 8, as I say, has kept him out of action. 7 out of 10. Actually is and came through, I think, at Spurs and has got his history playing for the England youth side, but has also spoken out about playing for the Netherlands at senior level. Has always been rated as a very exciting young player, but I think his injuries may be too much for some people. I gave him a 7 out of 10, but I think that might maybe a bit too generous. MVR says 5, horrendous injury record. Bad injury record, says Bernard, so I give him a 5. Marcus says 5. Gunagang says 6. Noni's unproven. Morgan says 10, just to annoy Chelsea. Nimish says 5. Nav says 4. Madueke and Javi for 90 million, says Adam. I mean, that's a hell of a business if you can get both of those two for 90 million. Cliff says 10 out of 10. Let's hijack Chelsea. Actually, though, it's probably a 6.5 out of 10. Sam says, Tom, it's not just his pace. I mean, his build-up and positioning maybe can learn a bit from Mikel. True. I think that was regarding Lindstrom, to be fair. Ramsey says another minus out of 10. Another one I haven't seen, so no rating on this one. Fair play, by the way, for not giving a rating and just saying you've not seen them. You know, sometimes people want to jump in with a rating having not even seen anything of the player, which is strange. So I respect that if you don't want to give a rating on a player. Jeremy Doku, Belgian youngster, plays for Rennes. Has always been kind of talked about as an exciting young player. Can play on either flank, right wing or left wing. Estimated price tag only around £20 million. However, has struggled a bit. No goals or assists so far this season in his 12 appearances for Rennes. Was called up by the Belgian national side for the World Cup. Don't think he played. Has suffered 7 injuries so far this season. 6 out of 10 for me, which is, again, for me, that's low. I'm quite optimistic with these ratings, and 6 for me is quite low. Let's go to Kuhn, who says 5. Sam says 7. Lele says 5. Marcus says he's an hour part 2. Colin says 7. Yomi going for a 2 out of 10 for Doku. Akamura says 7. Oh, yes, says Falcon 10. He is so good. Well, clearly a big fan of Doku is Falcon. Zana says 4. John Dinkelberg says too many injuries. Patrick Carlson says 9 for Doku. Wow. I don't necessarily rate this guy at all. Some people really seem to like him. Chris says 6 isn't going to help us win the league. I don't feel. Marcus says 4. Nav says 5. Zeus just simply says he's not that guy. Interesting indeed. Ansu Fati, Barcelona, Spain international, can play left, can play right, can play through the middle. 20 years of age, estimated price tag 80 million, and that's an estimation. I don't know how much Barca would ask for, but he's like one of the most impressive talents that ever came out of La Masia since Lionel Messi, to be honest, and really did smash things when he first jumped onto the scene. However, he did suffer a very serious knee injury, hasn't necessarily returned as quickly as what Barcelona have wanted him to, and yet there's been rumours that they are willing to let him go if the right valuation comes along. 16 appearances so far this season after getting back into the action. 3 goals, 3 assists, as I say, 10 injuries, only 20 years age. That is a big, big thing. And that's why my rating is down at 7.5. I know a lot of people may rate him significantly higher. That injury record is a big, big worry, as is the price tag. And I think those two bring it down for me. Rancid says 7 out of 10. Peck says 9. Brady says 7. Fatty, never happening, though. Interesting to say it's never happening because apparently they are open to selling him, but for the right price tag, whatever that might be. Cliff says 8 out of 10. Solid upside, risks involved, though, with this one. Again, leaning on those injuries, too. Mohammed says Fatty is a super talent, not realistic. Will not leave Barca, of course. No way. For me, he is a top talent, but a 9 out of 10. DR says 6 reminds me of Munir. Interesting. I think there's a lot of differences between him and Munir, personally. Just my opinion. Waxy says 7.5 out of 10. La Masia hype. MVR says so, just a 6. And if available in 40, sure, says Mehdi. But I think he might go for significantly more than that. Nico Williams, Athletic Club, the club in which I get so annoyed why people say Atletico rather than Atletico is because the reason why you don't say Atletico Madrid is because it's A, not that, and B, because Athletic Club exists. So there you go. There's the reasoning behind why I get so annoyed about the pronunciation of those two clubs. But Athletic Club, not Athletic Bilbao. That's not the name of them. Athletic Club. Right wing, left wing, age 20. Estimated price tag around £43 million. Apparently, that is what his release clause is. That's why that is more specific for him. 17 appearances this season, 3 goals, 3 assists. Really stepped up from his breakout season last year. 2 injuries so far, so decent. I think he's only missed a couple of games. I'd give him an 8 out of 10 on this one. Really exciting player. I don't know how he would necessarily transfer his talent to the Premier League. And of course, his price tag is very high for the age that he is. But exciting player indeed. And I would love to see him in an Arsenal shirt personally. Marcus says 8. 10 says Haj, release clause, dude. Now is your time. Chris says 8 would be great. Carl says Nico would be a superstar. 9 out of 10. Bengal Boy says Nico 8.5. Right profile. Jay says 7. Not proven anything yet. Mo says 8. Nimish says 7. He is the better. Either he's the better Williams or there are better Williams. His brother Iñaki Williams, of course, does also play for Athletic Club. Merchant Banker says 8.5 out of 10. Better than Ansu Fati. Zana says 7.5 or 8 or 8.5 or 9. I'm not sure Zana can make up his mind on Nico Williams. Cliff says 8 out of 10. Simeone does not allow him to develop. Super Mick Wood. He plays for Athletic Club, to be fair, Cliff, not Atletico. So he's not playing under Simeone at the moment. Chief says 8. Kevin says 8. A lot of positivity, clearly, around Nico Williams. He's a player that is on the lips of a lot of the eyes of the world right now. And Athletic Club do not sell cheaply and typically only for the release clauses. So expect a big fee for him. Pedro Gonzalez, Sporting Lisbon. I've talked about him a number of times before. Very good player. Can play left wing, can play right wing, can play through the middle. 24 years of age. Estimated price tag around 40 million. I think they might ask for a bit more. 15 appearances, 8 goals, 3 assists so far this season, 5 injuries. I've given him a rating of 8 out of 10 on this one. He has a really good goal scoring record. If you want a goal scoring wide player, Pedro Gonzalez is that player. A really interesting one. Brady says 8. Zahid says 6. He's fell off a bit. I wouldn't say he's fell off a bit at all. I think Sporting are falling off a bit, but I don't think he necessarily has. Peck says 9. I don't know much about him, says Chris, so I can't rate him, and that's fair. Yomi says Pedro, I'd give him a 7. Jay says I don't rate him at all, only a 2. Zaha says 7. Steve says 8. He's got good stats. Bleu says not fast enough. Max Stays Black says 8.9. He's amazing. Vishal says 8. Akamura says 9. Waxy says 9. Stump Dragon says 5.5. Merchant Bank says 5 out of 10. Not for me. Very split indeed on Pedro Gonzalez. Louise Enrique, a player that I know nothing about. I know a little bit. I say nothing, that's harsh. I know a bit about him, having watched a YouTube compilation, which made him look about 100 out of 10 if I was to give him a rating. But on the radar of Manchester United, apparently at the moment, can play right wing, can play left mid, can play right midfield. At 22 years of age, £25 million estimated price tag. Just the 1 goal and 1 assist, 14 appearances for Real Betis. 5 injuries, quite a lot for a 22-year-old. I've given him a 6.5, but that's probably affected by the fact that I don't know much about him, and I think there are better options out there. Yes, don't know anything about him, says Colin. Favan says 4. I think there are better options, more proven players right now. A lot of people in the chat were saying they'd never heard of him. Yeah, and I'm not surprised. He's really kind of come onto the scene this season. He's being talked a lot more about this season. You'll probably hear more about him in the coming year to 18 months or so. Man United are following him quite stringently. So there you go. For Kundo Torres, the Orlando City Uruguayan international has been linked to Arsenal. Can play on the left, can play on the right, 22 years of age, £15 million estimated price tag, played 33 times in the MLS for Orlando last season, scored 9 goals, got 8 assists, so that's a goal contribution every other game. Only 2 injuries. I've given him a rating of 6 out of 10. I just don't think he's at that level. I think it's a massive risk to sign somebody right now from the MLS, and I think that probably brings his rating down. I know that's dismissive of me, and I think there are certainly players that have come from the MLS that are doing really, really well, but it's taken time, and there is time, I think, to adapt if coming from the MLS, and I think there are better options out there. Merchant says 5 out of 10. He won't help us win the title. Steven says 5. Sorry. You don't need to apologize. Opinions are opinions. Ranted says 2 out of 10. MI Tech says 4. Lowest priority. Cliff says 7 out of 10. Underrated player. May not be Arsenal's caliber, though. MLS out of 10, says John. Not sure about this one. Chief and Soki says 5. Would rather have Nelson, says Michael Berger. Tom says meh. Torres is maybe a 6, probably a 5. And Tom, of course, coming from the US, will know plenty about him. Lele says 6. Tom says 3 out of 10. Zach says 1. He isn't at the level of Almiron in the MLS either. Sean says 4. Won't be ready for another 5 years. Very low indeed. Unsurprisingly so. Getting towards the end of our options now. Noah Okafor, Red Bull Salzburg, Switzerland international, 22 years of age, can play through the middle and has done a lot this season, but can also play in the wide areas. Got over 100 appearances playing through at Red Bull Salzburg and in their youth side at FC Liefering. Estimated price tag around £25 million. 14 appearances for Salzburg this season. 7 goals, 1 assist. 14 injuries. Has suffered quite significantly, and that has stunted his development. But he is considered now kind of the forward at Salzburg, of course, with Benjamin Sesko going off to Leipzig at the end of this season. But Okafor is seen as the player that will probably be leaving Salzburg in the coming windows coming up, both this one and the summer one. Atkins says 7. He's got a pretty good output. Patrick says from Salzburg, he must be a 10. Yomi says Okafor 4 out of 10. Merchant Banker says 5 out of 10. His mate Adamu, though, is better. Sean says 2, no thanks. John says too many injuries. MIA Tech says haven't seen any of him, to be fair. MVR says 6, never seen him, but I have heard good things about him. Yeah, he is a talented young player. Avanes says 5, will help the squad. Lele says 5 as well. Lead says, have you mentioned someone? I'm assuming you may have pressed enter before asking the question. Zach says 6, doing very well at Salzburg, but feel he needs to move to a bigger league before moving to a big club. I do tend to agree. And number 30 on our list is Ismail Asar, Watford's Senegalese international, right wing, left wing, centre forward, 24 years of age, estimated price tag said to be around £25 million. Could be more, but his contract is running down. 22 appearances in the Championship this season for Watford, 7 goals, 4 assists, 6 injuries he's had in his time there. I've given him a rating of 7 out of 10. I think he could be a decent competitor to Saka. I personally think there are a lot better players that we could ultimately look to try and sign, but I wouldn't rule him out of my list, and that's why I've included him as our 30 on here as well. Sean says 7. No Sleep says 7.5. Chris says 5. Didn't do much for Watford in the Premier League. 6.5 says Rancid Pumpkin. Zeus says hell no. 1 out of 10. John Dinklebird says 1 out of 10 as well on this one. Not happy with this. Stump Dragon says 0 out of 10. Ed's going for a 6. We'll do it at the end of the window if we've not signed anyone else. Stanley says 6.5 for me. Jonathan says, Tom, where is Dominic Zoboslai? Just couldn't include him, I'm afraid. I would have loved to, but I couldn't include him. I'd rather Trossard, says MI Tech. 6 says Michael Berger. Blue says 6 as well. And there you go. We finished our list. In conclusion, and of course, maybe there's some people that are suggesting some names of players that I may have missed. Of course, if you could let us know in the comment section if there are any that you think I've missed off this list as well. Some of you are suggesting Jota at Celtic, of course, got 6 goals, 6 assists in the Scottish Premiership this season. I don't know anything about him. He's not even been someone who's popped up on my radar. Zach Oyathabal has just only come back from a very serious injury, so I haven't included him on the list because I don't think Arsenal would be looking at a player that's just come back from a very serious injury. He's played 3 games, 2 off the bench so far. Maybe one to look at in the summer, though, is Oyathabal, but I don't think during this January window. Afsar, we've done Mitoma. We've done Nico Williams. Arsene Zageran. I don't much about him, MVR, at all. Damari Gray, says Dan Hand, I didn't include on this list, has, of course, played at a couple of Premier League clubs with Leicester and now Everton as well. Jonathan says Danny Olmo is more of an attacking midfielder for me. I tried to go with more wingers than attacking midfielders that can play in wide areas on this. John says Jared Bowen. Not talked about him. Yeah, he's gone very much off the radar. Not a bad shout. Maybe you could convince him to make that move away from West Ham United. Adama Traore, people are suggesting in the chat box. Hamed Traore, though, of Sassuolo, says Harun is maybe someone that we could have looked at. Harj says, what about Harvey Barnes? I haven't talked about him. Tete from Lyon, of course, I think on loan, Adam from Shakhtar Donetsk at the moment. Don't really want to do any business with them, to be fair. But there's a fair few that you've not talked about. Nevin, no, I didn't talk about Rashford. I didn't include him on the list. I have no doubt that Rashford will remain and sign a contract extension at Man United. So, no, I didn't include him on this list. I've imagined that some people joining us have missed some of the options that we've gone through. To run you quickly through who we did, we've done Ismail Asar, we've done Noah Okafor, we've done Kundo Torres, Louise Enrique, Pedro Gonzalez, Nico Williams, Ansu Fati, Jeremy Doku, Noni Madueke, Jesper Lindstrom, Marcus Edwards, Pedro Neto, Leroy Sane, Raphaelliao, Javi Simmons, Michael Alise. We've got Pepe, the Porto Pepe, and the forward one, not the defender. Kolo Muani of Frankfurt, Kaoru Mitoma, Herving Lozano, Jeremy Pino, Raphaelliao, Moussa Diaby, Federico Chiesa, Kvaratskhelia, Ferran Torres. I feel like there's more to come. Arnaud Danjuma, Marcus Turan, Wilfred Zaha, and Leandro Trossard. 30 players that Arsenal could, maybe will, probably won't look to sign during the January transfer window. And again, thank you everybody for listening to today's show. In conclusion, who would I like to see join Arsenal? I think there are some very good options on there. I think Kolo Muani is a very good one. I think on a short-term contract, Wilfred Zaha might not be the worst idea in the world, especially for the impact he might have during this season. I'm a big fan of Pedro Gonzalez. If you can get Javi Simmons in, I think he'd be a great option as well. And of course, you've got the big names like Kvaratskhelia, Raphaelliao as well. Of course, those two very big. If you can get those two in, amazing, but I don't think they're necessarily realistic. Let us know what your thoughts are on the players that we've rated and ranked today in today's show. So do leave us your comments down below. If you want to type out the whole list and then leave your individual ratings by each one, feel free. If you want to leave comments of players that you don't think we've covered that should have been on our list, do also leave them in the comment section below. I'll be joining you once again tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8 a.m. as always, to give you all of the latest with some very interesting news regarding Declan Rice dropping today, which we'll be discussing in tomorrow morning's show. Thank you for listening. It took a lot of effort to put all of this together, and I had to do it all on my lunch break. So thank you, everybody that has indeed tuned in today's show. If you could drop a like, that would mean a lot. If you would subscribe to the channel as well, also, that would mean loads. Thank you for helping us on our way to our next milestone of 44,000 subs. that'd be great. It'd be great to reach 44,000 by the end of the January window. That'd be brilliant. I mean, if we could reach 45,000, that would be kind of crazy. But thank you so much for everybody that's tuned in. I'll see you again bright and early tomorrow morning, UK time, 8 a.m. And as of now, we bring today's show to an end. Have a fantastic day. And as always, up the Arsenal.